It's very common in this game to see traders completely write off Monday plays. But in today's video, I'm going to be showing you the protocol that I personally follow that allows me to avoid the fake outs while still being able to take the trades that actually hold to the target, regardless of it being a Monday or not. So let's get right into the video. Now, the logic that this is based off is very simple, and it's going to be really easy for me to explain to you today. So essentially, when I'm looking at any trade, right, I'm either trading towards external range liquidity or I'm trading towards internal range liquidity, right? So I'm either trading towards an old high or an old low, or I'm trading towards a bullish or bearish FVG, right? That's all I'm ever doing. All you need to understand to use this protocol I'm going to be showing you is how the lows and the highs of these legs are most likely to form. So when you break it down on a lower time frame, you'll see that this low here probably formed with some kind of sweep of liquidity and a change in state of delivery before running higher. You'll see that this high up here most likely formed with some kind of sweep of liquidity followed by a bearish CSD, and then that continued lower. The same over here, right? This high, most likely you'll find that formed with a sweep of liquidity and bearish CSD to continue lower. The same with this low down here, that likely formed with some kind of sweep of liquidity and bullish CSD, which then continued higher. Okay, for instance, here on NAS, price retraced into this bearish FVG, okay, and then move to the downside. What does this high up here look like when we break it down on the lower time frames? Well, if we go onto the 4 hour, okay, you can see very clearly price swept this liquidity here. We took out this liquidity here, and we took out this liquidity. So whichever high you want to class as the sweep of liquidity, we've got that. And that was followed by a bearish CSD because we closed beneath these last 3 up candles. We closed through that, forming a bearish order block, forming the CSD. So you can see this high of the leg before price impulse towards this external range liquidity was a sweep and a CSD. You know, another example here, right? You can see that price took out this old low and then went and ran towards this old high. If we look closer at how the low of this leg formed, let's say we go onto the 4 hour, okay, you'll very clearly be able to see that price took out this old low. So we have the sweep. Maybe you want to class the sweep as this old low instead. Either way, it's fine. We took out liquidity and then we formed this bullish CSD, right, which began the order flow, which ended up holding towards this old high up here, right? So you see how the highs and the lows of the legs are most likely to form. So now you're probably wondering, okay, but how does this actually help me trade on Mondays? And I'm going to show you that right now. So if we take a little section out of this diagram and we break it down in a little bit more depth, right? So let's just say, for instance, we're bullish, price retraced into a bullish FVG, right? So we'll just grab this from here, this internal range liquidity. And then we were looking for the move for price to go and target this external range liquidity, right? So let's say, for instance, price is currently down here and we're looking for an expansion to the upside. Now, all you have to do to be able to avoid Monday fake outs while still being able to trade the high probability Monday plays is understand whereabouts in the formation of this low you actually are at the start of the week. Now, where a lot of traders are getting caught out, and probably the reason why they wrote off Mondays altogether, is because they're expecting an expansion, right? They're expecting an expansion towards external. This applies for any kind of target. Maybe they're expecting this expansion here, but they're trying to get into the trade before price is ready to run, right? They haven't waited for the confirmation down here that tells us that price is ready to run, okay? So let's say, for instance, the previous week has retraced, okay? We got the retracement last week into the internal range liquidity, right? Now, a lot of traders, once price is down here, they're looking for a trade to the upside. And when it comes to playing Mondays, okay, where they've probably been caught out, is they haven't waited for the clear sign that price has formed a low. And like I just showed you, the low of legs form most of the time, almost all of the time, with a sweep of liquidity followed by a CSD. Okay, so if you haven't waited for that, then price hasn't showed you that it's ready to run. So let's say that Monday opens up, we're in the internal range liquidity, but we have no sweep and CSD. Price is clearly not ready to run towards this external range liquidity yet. So in that scenario, it would be wise to wait out Monday, right? And that's where you're going to be able to avoid those Monday fake outs. It's not about the specific day of the week, right? It's really not about that. It's more about whereabouts in the formation of the low you are. If price is not ready to go, then it's simply not ready to go. This low here could be formed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It doesn't matter. If price hasn't given you the confirmation that it's going to go towards your target now, you shouldn't be trading. So it's not about avoiding Mondays. It's about avoiding low probability trades at the low of legs and at the highs of legs where price hasn't given you enough confirmation yet. So let me show you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. So here on gold, okay, price retraced into this internal range liquidity, okay? And from there, I was anticipating, ideally, an expansion towards this external range liquidity. And if we have a look at the days of the week, okay, this is Friday. Friday tagged this internal range liquidity, filling it in, okay? So going into next week, I wanted to see price push to the upside, okay? But if we go onto the 4 hour, you can see, yes, okay, we had this sweep of liquidity. So we had the liquidity sweep, but price was yet to push to the upside and form a CSD. Okay, so if we know that the lows of legs form like a sweep and a CSD, and we are yet to get that CSD to run higher, then we know that the low of the leg isn't set in yet. Okay, so in this scenario, I wanted to see price give that 4 hour CSD before I would engage in it. So I didn't trade Monday. Okay, I left Monday alone because we hadn't got that CSD yet. And if I play it out, you can see we don't get that CSD until later in the week. What is this? This is Wednesday, and we still haven't given a CSD, right? These are the last two down candles. So that would need to be closed above for the CSD. And you can see that that doesn't happen until Thursday. Okay, but as soon as we get that CSD and that low is locked in, you can see that price runs immediately to the external range liquidity. So like I said a minute ago, it's not simply about what day of the week is it, because it's Monday I can't trade. It's about, have you got the confirmation that price is ready to run towards your target? Just because it was now Tuesday, okay? Let's say you avoid Monday and this right here is Tuesday. Just because it's Tuesday all of a sudden doesn't mean price is going to run towards your target today, because you still hadn't got the CSD. Just because it's Wednesday doesn't mean now it's time for price to run towards your target. You hadn't had the confirmation, okay? It's about the confirmation. It's not about the day of the week. Now, if you're tapped in to the free Telegram that I have, where I post my weekly outlook, so before every week I record a video of what I'm expecting for the week, I called this out, right? I said in the weekly outlook, I'm not trading until we get the CSD to confirm the low, and then I'll target the external range liquidity. I called it out and it played out perfectly. So I'll link the Telegram in the description. I'll make it the top link, but also I update the predictions in the free Discord, right? So once we got this CSD and price looked like that, obviously I can't call that on Sunday night, right? I have to call it once it happens, and I put those kinds of predictions, right, as it's playing out throughout the week in the free Discord. So if you want to join either of those, I'm going to put the top two links in the description as a Telegram and Discord. But let me show you another example because I'm waffling now. All right, cool. So we have another example that I can show you really quickly. We're on Euro USD. This was on the week starting the 13th of January. So price expanded to the downside and we took out this external range liquidity. So from here, you'd probably be expecting price to now retrace into internal range liquidity. And that is what I was expecting. But if we have a look, this is Monday down here, right? This is where Monday began. Okay, now we have the sweep of liquidity, whether you want to class it as this low here or whether you want to class it as this low down here, right? We have the sweep, but we still don't have the CSD. And we know price forms a low with a sweep of liquidity and a CSD. Until we get that, we can't be certain that price is now going to move where we're expecting it to. So again, this would be the perfect time and the perfect scenario to let Monday play out, right? And if I let it play out a little bit, you can see that later on we get the CSD. Where is this? At the end of Monday, price then forms the CSD. Okay, so let's say you let Monday play out, because this CSD didn't form until 10 p.m. Monday, which is basically Tuesday's open. So you'd let Monday play out, we form the CSD. Now we have the confirmation, right? It wasn't just about avoiding Monday, it was about waiting for the confirmation, right? And then you can see that holds and price retraces into we have some kind of external range liquidity. We don't tag that, we tag this internal range liquidity lower. Okay, but that's not the point. The point is we need to wait for confirmation to be confident that this low is set in. So those are the types of scenarios where you want to wait, right? Those are the scenarios where you want to avoid trading Monday because you're waiting for more confirmation. But not all Mondays are built like this. You know, a lot of traders will see that and say, okay, I can't trade any Mondays. But it's simply not the case, right? Once you understand the logic behind it, which is what I just showed you, where it's about waiting for the low to be set in. Once you understand that logic, you'll be able to identify the Mondays that actually are playable. So let me explain it a little bit to you. So let's say, for instance, now we had a bearish week, okay, into the internal range liquidity, and you're now expecting a run towards some kind of target, right? But at the end of the week, let's say on Friday, price formed a sweep and the CSD. Okay, so when it comes to the open of the week, when it comes to Monday, price already has locked in a low, right? It's already formed what we would consider to be a low that should now hold as price runs towards the target. So in this kind of scenario, there is no reason, right? There's no explanation as to why Monday should come and manipulate this again. Okay, there just isn't. So the only logical thing to do is to play Monday as if it was any other day of the week, right? And you know, you can just go ahead and play this order flow that has now been built, because we don't need to see Monday form the sweep and CSD, because that was already formed at the end of last week. Okay, so that's one scenario where you can actually go ahead and play Monday. Now there is one more scenario that could actually play out that would allow you to play Mondays as well. So again, let's say we got this retracement into the internal, whether that was the whole of the previous week's expansion or whether the previous week expanded and retraced. It doesn't really matter. The point is we're looking for an expansion from internal to external, or even if it was from external to internal, we're looking for an expansion. Now, even if the end of the week didn't form the sweep and the CSD, we can still play Monday if early on in Monday forms the sweep and CSD. So let's say, for instance, we get a London protraction, right? If you don't know what that is, it's called a daily cycle. They're frameworks that I personally use to time my expansions, right? I figure out where the day's going, and then I figure out what session is going to actually move towards that target. So that's what a daily cycle is. So let's say, for instance, we get a London protraction, right? We get Asia session, and then we get London session that sweeps out Asia's low, right? So we get Asia, London sweeps that out, so we have the sweep, and then London gives the expansion that we expect in London protraction. Now that could potentially form the sweep and CSD that I'm looking for to confirm that the low is set in. So if we were to get that in London and Asia session, then we've already had that low set in, and that means that we can very comfortably play a continuation in New York session, right? And if you know about the daily cycles, you know I literally have a daily cycle called New York continuation, right? Which allows you to play New York once London has already impulsed towards your target, right? So that would allow you to play a Monday, right? Even if you didn't get sweep and CSD at the end of the previous week, right? The same goes, let's say, for instance, we get a New York reversal cycle or some form of New York reversal where London's kill zone gets taken out by New York, and it looks something like this, right? So London kill zone, New York takes it out, and then we expand to the upside. If that again forms that sweep and CSD formation we're looking for, okay, in order to confirm the low setting, then we can play that again, okay? We can play Monday, okay? So these are scenarios where you want to execute on Monday, because it's not about avoiding a certain day of the week. I'll say this over and over again. It's about the logic, right? It's about waiting for enough confirmation to know that this low is now likely to hold before moving towards the target. And I know that I've just explained it using this internal to external example, but the same goes for anything, right? If you're expecting this high to run to this target, use the same logic. If you're expecting this low to hold and run to this target, use the same logic, right? It's all the same thing. Okay, so now let's look at some real examples so you can see this protocol in action. So we're starting on the dollar index on the daily. Price has taken out this external range liquidity, right? Down here, this day here is Friday. So the week ended below the external range liquidity. And now we're going to anticipate that price is going to retrace into the internal range liquidity, which is this FVG hit. But in order to play this, we need to see that the low is locked in, right? That there's a high probability that that low is going to hold. So now I've come down onto the 4-hour chart, right? And we're going to really break this down. So this here, like I said, is Friday's low. Okay, all of this down here is Friday. And you can see that the week ended by taking out liquidity. And then we opened on Sunday with a big push to the upside. So we've swept liquidity and then we've formed a CSD, right? So if we're looking for a low that is likely to hold, we're looking for a sweep and a CSD. So once price is already moving towards this internal range liquidity and we have the sweep and CSD, what reason is there for price to retrace and take out this low on Monday before targeting this internal range liquidity? It just doesn't make sense, right? That's not how the markets move, right? They take out external, then they set in a low, right? And once that low set in, it will target the internal, okay? And that's exactly what we're looking at here, right? We have that clear low formed. So from here, this should hold to the internal range liquidity. So even if this move is on Monday, we can play it. Now, you may know that I correlate my DXY moves with Euro USD and GBP USD. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the GBP USD trade in correlation with this, which was actually a sell. So this blue box down here is Asia kill zone, okay? And one of the daily cycles I look for is called London protraction, which essentially is where Asia consolidates, right? Asia essentially just moves sideways and builds up some kind of liquidity. And then we look for London kill zone to sweep out Asia's high, right? So we look for a run above Asia. And then once we get that, we look for a reversal and for London to then run to the downside. So London will take out Asia's high and then run to the downside for the rest of London session, okay? So that's one of the cycles. And as you can see, we have this 1-hour FVG here. Okay, price has taken out Asia's high. And then if I go down onto the lower time frames, okay, you can see this purple box is London kill zone. So price has taken out Asia's high, formed the high in London kill zone. This is where we anticipate now London should reverse and run to the downside. And as you can see, we formed this bearish order block on the 5-minute. Okay, because we closed beneath these last two up candles. That's my confirmation for entry. So you can enter off that. Stop loss can go here. And you can literally just TP at Asia's low. Okay. Now, as per the daily cycles, London should now run to the downside. But more importantly, okay, the whole point of this video is the fact that this is Monday. Okay, this is Monday, a day that most traders would avoid. But because we have the confirmation on the dollar index that we've set in this low, we have the sweep in the CSD, and now we're moving towards the target, there's no reason why that shouldn't be hit, even if it is Monday. So let me show you one last example. Okay, so we're here on Euro USD. This trade is on the 24th of March, 2025. So if we break down the daily a little bit, price has formed this bearish CSD at the end of last week, right? And I'm essentially anticipating lower prices. Now, in order for me to trade Monday, we need to see confirmation that price has set in some kind of high, right? So that would be a sweep and a CSD. That is how we know that the high is likely going to hold. Okay, so we don't trade Mondays unless we see that. Now, unlike the previous example where we had that sweep and CSD at the end of the previous week and at the start of Monday, as you're going to see in this example, we got the sweep and CSD during Monday, right? And it allowed us to play New York session. So if I play this out a little bit, you can see price reaches into this bearish order block. Okay, so we tap into the order block and we actually fail to get above this high. Okay, but this high, what time is that? That is Friday at 12. If we go on to GBP USD, Friday at 12 is this high here. And that was very clearly swept. So that's a level of SMT. Now, if you know about SMT, you will know that that is a manipulation. So when we get SMT like this, you can actually just imagine price has taken out that high. Okay, so we've had the sweep within the bearish order block. And then we get the CSD, right? If we have a look, this is on the 1 hour time frame. Okay, so we've manipulated liquidity. We've also taken out this high here. And that was followed by a CSD, right? On the 1 hour. We close beneath this last up candle. So now what is that, right? That is a high that has a high probability of holding, right? If we're going to target this external range liquidity, okay, we're waiting for price to form a sweep and CSD for the high to then continue the order flow to the downside, right? If I put on the kill zones, you'll see that this took place during London. Okay, London formed the high, and then in between sessions and at the start of New York kill zone, if I play out the next hour, you'll see that price formed the CSD. Okay, so now price has met that criteria. Even though it's Monday, that's got a high probability of holding. Why would you expect now that price would run to the upside and manipulate all of this again before running towards the target, right? It doesn't make sense. If you think about how highs form, price will retrace, okay, and will take out liquidity and form a CSD. So once we have that, right, there's no reason not to play it, okay? And I actually took a trade based off of this, okay? So we had the CSD on the 1 hour, of course, but we had the CSD on the 30-minute. If I turn off the kill zones, you'll be able to see it clearly. And I actually had an execution off of this 30-minute FVG. And it was also based off the 1 hour IFVG. But yeah, this was my entry. My stop loss was here. And the target was down here at 1 to 2. As you'll see, it plays out. Now, not only did I personally take this trade using the protocol that I just showed you, but it was also called out to a new trade ideas group that I've set up. Last week, we called out over 4.5 R for our members with 2 trades. And the week before that, we called out 3 R for the members with 1 trade. Now, the best part about this trade ideas group or signal service, whatever you want to call it, is it's free if you fit the criteria. Okay, now it's currently capped at 100 members. So once we get 100 members, we're going to be closing it off for a bit. So if you did want to come through and copy these trades, maybe you want to earn some money whilst you're still learning how to trade, you can 100% do that as long as you get in within the first 100 members. So if that's something you're interested in, the third link in the description is going to allow you to apply to come and join this free signals group. Now, just a quick reminder, this is not financial advice. The signals that are given are simply trade ideas and you will be taking them at your own risk. But yeah, that is how I personally go about trading Mondays, right? I'm able to avoid the nasty fake outs that happen when you don't wait for enough confirmation. And I'm able to actually capitalize on the moves that are ready to run regardless of the day of the week. So yeah, I hope you found value in that video and I'll catch you on the next one.